floor is for some meeting.
Yes. Alrighty. So I don't fully know the process, so correct me if I'm out of line at any point, but my name is Savannah and I live over on Hill Road at Heart and Soil Farm. My family we have 4 children right now, and we love our town up here and we love the rec program that happens here. We also really enjoy going to the St. Albans rec program for things that are not offered in our town, or especially with the new pool. I also homeschool our kids, and in that I'm part of a group of families that has probably 15 families in it, and so I have a lot of anecdotal opinions that people would like to try to rejoin St. Albans Rec to get the resident rate for a lot of their programming. So I wanted to bring that thought to the table, and I did reach out to Kelly Vians just to get an idea of like what that would entail and how much that would be. So she told us that in this last fiscal year that there were 195 registrations from Fairfield, which totaled just under $32,000 coming from Fairfield residents. And she estimated that during that time, that would have, if we had been part of St. Albans Rec, it would have cost the town $10,000 to $12,000 to get the resident rate. And then she said for planning and budgeting purposes, she was thinking 16 to 18,000 would need to be allotted, especially because if the idea is to make the programming mean more accessible, then more people are going to use it. So she would want to have wiggle room in that budget. And those are my thoughts.
What's in that budget now, $10,000 total?
It's about 10,000 every year,
Total.
and then we have money that we've been putting into their account. So every year, if they don't use all the money, then it goes into their rec.
But when we went with St. Albans before, it started off around $2,500.
Yes.
Within 3 years, it was up to $10,000. It was eating the whole budget up.
Yes.
That's when we got out of it.
Yes.
And I think the town of Georgia got out of it also because it ate up most of their recreation budget.
Yes. So
That's what she's saying right now. We don't even have the budget, and this is my mind.
Yeah,
I said, I'm not talking to anybody else. This is my mind. This is almost double the budget we have for recreation.
Right. Yes, it could be potentially. So
I'd like to have some, personally, this is me speaking.
Yeah.
The reason we did it the time before is because we want to make sure there's programs that stay for kids in town.
Right.
I couldn't go to St. Albans.
you're bringing up a really important part of what I had to say that I had forgotten, is that we want to keep Fairfield Rec going. And in our mind, this is like from Damien and I speaking, like a separate line item, totally budget.
It's not cost effective. That's way out of whack, isn't it?
What is not cost effective?
Right, and given the numbers we talked about last time, they want
Oh,
significant.
you missed 16,000 is the commitment they want from us.
Yeah,
But they're suggesting you commit more because they figure more people's going to take it. So you're talking 3 times, you got 10,000 now, they're talking 20 realistically.
And the parents and families in Fairfield have spent $32,000 out of their pocket to the Parks and Rec over the last year.
And there's 195 participants from Fairfield that are going to.
right, so does that get us into their programs with no fees?
No, you still have a fee, but you're getting the discounted.
Right, which is $25. I just signed my kids up for it. I mean, it's not,
I think depending what program you're selecting, I know with like swim lessons, it's pretty significant. It's like $50 a child. And if you're talking about families that have multiple children, I mean that for my family, I have 4 children. So
well, I do too. No,
Yeah,
I get it, but it doesn't. We have
Well,
shut down.
yeah.
Now, I'm curious, so Kelly is the rec director at St.
Yes.
Albans Town?
Yes.
So when you quoted, just for the numbers for Dave, 195 Fairfield residents paid $32,000 this last year to take advantage of those programs. And she suggested if the town, her numbers, appropriated $16,000, then that would be her estimate for the Fairfield residents would get a residential rate for St. Albans Town.
Yes,
So I was curious, that's helpful. So she's saying 16,000 for, I guess, 195, assuming it's close to the same.
I think that was her budgeting an increase.
Okay, so what I was curious is, was there any, I wonder if there's any middle ground that says if the town appropriated if Fairfield appropriated $8,000, would there be a discount, or is that a flat, what they?
Yeah, so first of all, I do really agree about that the price is just going up and up with all their programs, and that is not fantastic. But I do also feel like we're kind of, as families, in between a rock and a hard place, because there's only so much we can do on a town level, especially with volunteers, and then versus where they have paid staff and they have better, a pool and facilities that we can utilize now. But I do know that Georgia tried to do a voucher system where the town of Georgia paid, they set aside a certain amount, say $8,000, like you're saying, but people had to go to the town office and get a voucher and then go to wherever they were signing up for the program. And she did not want to do that again.
St. Albans Town used to do that also. They did it, and they had such a hassle with it, they knocked it off.
Yeah.
It was such a hassle.
Yeah, and people get upset because
Yeah.
they don't fully understand how to utilize the
Well,
program.
the money's gone when they go to try to sign their child up and get the discount, the money's gone.
So is St. Albans Town, are they getting the discount, or are they also out of the program?
I think they
Do you
just
know?
recently became part of it.
Right.
Yeah,
I
they
think
recently
they did.
joined.
That's all there.
Yeah,
I think they control, when they joined the police department and all that, I think the rec department and all that went along with
They
it.
joined together.
Yeah. I've read it a couple times in the paper, but there ain't much in the paper, so.
Right.
Better than a courier.
Well, it's online, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. So, I don't know how things work to have to be able to get something as far as being on the town ballot for town meeting day. Can anybody explain that? Does it have to move past this board and then get put on,
The board has to decide whether it wants to have it on the ballot
and then?
first, and then you have to get a petition of 5% of the voters to
You
get
get 5%, you can
Okay.
get 5% of the voters to put a warning on,
Like a signature page?
at the end of the,
where they do the community center and
Yeah,
home health and all that kind of thing.
Okay.
They're very independent.
okay.
A separately warned article, right?
Yes.
Yep.
I have
Keep-
one quick question, even though I know we're not supposed to be speaking from the gallery here, but, so, for those
So
separately
you're
warned.
violating the rules, is that what
I
you're
am,
saying?
right off the top. So, those separately warned articles, like 2,000 to the home health and 1,000 to SPCA, or, do you have to decide to put those on the ballot? You guys first decide you're gonna put it on
The
the
board
ballot?
can decide whether they want any on or not, and then they get appeals, we get appeals all the time, who's not doing it. Because for a while, I went nuts. I bet one time I got up, this was years ago, got up to like $35,000 to $38,000. I mean, I'm talking 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
We're like, hey, there was some camp up in East Nowhere, one kid went one summer, so they started getting up to 10 for it. That's when we got, no, we're gonna keep this thing on, we're gonna choose whether we want them on or not. If we do, then they still have to get 5% of the voters to approve it by petition. That's how we've done it for 15 years now, something like that, it's quite a while. Doesn't mean it can't be changed, but it's how it's been done in the last few years, because it just got way out of whack.
but I thought if they had 5%, it could go on.
Whether you want it or not.
I thought it was a choice of the board whether you allowed it on.
By statute, it's
It's the board that can say whether they want to or not.
By statute, it's 5% of the voters, but by practice in Fairfield, there's usually a discussion. We like to see how things could work out, if there could be a way to come to an agreement before you go on. So the idea is you would come to an agreement before you go on, so that it goes on,
Oh, okay,
in a positive,
thank you.
yeah. So, next steps for this would be, does the select board want me to do anything? Would you
I
like
think
to
we-
do anything?
Ask them over, I mean, it's a great idea, I get it, but it's financially not a good deal for the town overall.
I just remember the last time, all of a sudden it goes from 2,000, 6,000, then it went up to 10,000, we're gonna eat the whole budget up. And they warned us then, the next year it was gonna be 15, that's why we said, hey, we need to get out of this. And concentrate, we had quite a few people volunteering at that time.
Right.
And we said, let's keep the money in town for programs in town, so any child could have the use of it,
Right.
so.
I mean, there were quite a few using it, but there wasn't a lot in the rec. And then all of a sudden, when got going, more people, it's a roller coaster the rec department is. It goes from 2 people to 10 to
Yeah.
the same 2 again.
Right. Yeah, it is hard because it's volunteer and
It's usually the same ones volunteering,
and you're gonna wear them right out.
yep.
I mean, I know I got called in to coach the night before soccer started, and it was, you know, I did it because my child wouldn't have been able to have
Yeah.
soccer. So I coached with a baby on my back and a toddler on my shoulders and showed up and they were like, oh, it's kindergarten and preschool. So there's 25 3 to 5 year olds and
Good
one
luck with
adult.
that.
Good luck. Yeah, I did it and definitely enjoyed it, but when you get, certain stages of life, you do need to go to outside resources. And I think that there are a large number of families in the town that do agree that they wish we could get easier access to those programs in town, especially there is the Warner Scholarship, but that has the financial restriction of, I think you have to be like a certain percentage of the poverty line to get that.
Free and reduced lunch.
Free, thank you, Sarah.
Reduced lunch.
Free and reduced lunch, you have to be free and reduced lunch to get that. Or you can either be well enough off that you can easily afford to take advantage. And then I think there's a large chunk of the population that's sort of like stuck in this middle ground where, yeah, if I wanted to do swim lessons for all 4 of my children, it's like $1,200, which I think learning to swim is more of something you need to do, not necessarily a privilege. And that's what you think too.
Would it make sense for Kathy just to check in to kind of have that backdoor conversation with the rec director, just to see if the numbers, I'd be curious to see, if we could validate, what the actual, what we would be facing, or what, if you're, especially if you're thinking about getting signatures. It'd be interesting for you to follow up with her rec director and say, hey, what would, is it $16,000?
You could just say the select board wants some real numbers.
And
Yeah, right, that's what I
The
mean.
select board wants real numbers to
Yeah,
discuss it.
exactly.
And I would like
Exactly.
to explain to her that the issues, what you were saying before, that the issue of things going up and up
Sure.
needs to be resolved, and does the city have a plan for that? Because that's something that you would want me to
Let's
say.
get the usage
Yeah.
numbers, what would the discount be?
Yeah.
We gotta make sure it makes sense, because paying 16 to save 5 is not,
Well, I guarantee you it'll be
Yeah.
between 15 and 20.
I
No,
suspect
we
it'll be
spent a lot of
closer to
time-
20 by the time people would get,
action over this.
once they say, okay, it's out there, I'm gonna make use of it. And I
Yeah.
don't blame them, my
Yeah.
work is available.
Right.
And you were gonna wind up with 20 on top of your 10.
Yeah,
So that's what you
Is
gotta
it a
keep in mind.
percentage discount that they used to do?
Yeah,
A percentage?
I'm not sure.
20% or something. It wasn't, all I know is it just seemed like a wonderful idea when we started with it, and all of a sudden that thing's just blooming out of sight for the time period we were
Yeah.
in.
No, I agree that it has been.
I have some questions about the numbers as well to find out. I look into it.
Yeah. I was also curious, like for a further breakdown, like how many of those children were won a scholarship or other scholarship to know.
I was curious about if they had 195 people registered from Fairfield and it cost $32,000. And they say that for $16,000 to $18,000, there would be a discount for those families. How much would it still cost them? And would it make a significant difference? Because if not, then it doesn't make sense.
We're just paying the difference from the full
Right.
price to the discount.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that $16,000?
Yeah.
Right,
They're still getting their full.
right. Yeah. It's more a benefit to the citizens in Fairfield.
195 families of them.
Well, and I wonder if that
Or
even counts
109
the
is it
pool.
195 families, or is that 195
Kids.
participants, kids included?
And I
So
know,
it could be
Could
20
be only
families,
20 families,
or
Yeah.
25 families.
because some people do multiple programs.
That's
Right.
true.
Well, if your last name is Oregon, it could be just one.
There's multiple organs, so.
Yeah.
and I was wondering about the pool too, like, if you don't necessarily have a pass, but you're getting the day use, are they counting that in
Yeah,
there?
You can get a day's pass from the library.
Right, but that is wonderful, and we used it a lot, but it also became very popular, and Sarah, you could probably speak to that more. But I think like most Thursday through weekends, it was always taken out this winter, and
We restricted it to only Fairfield residents this year.
yeah.
so I'll find out how many of those were unduplicated individuals and what percentage of the unduplicated individuals came to the programs more than once.
Yeah. That would be good information.
Sounds good.
Okay. Wonderful.
Thanks for coming.
I'll see you again, get these numbers.
Sounds good, thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you, have a nice night, everyone.
You too.
Do we want to scooch over?
Library's next, right? Okay. How much you got, Mo? I mean, you got a lot of information, or what?
Local, but, yeah,
You gonna try to get your culvert in tomorrow?
yep,
It will be? God
Yeah.
bless.
They could open it, but they do their not there.
yeah.
Like,
Well, just no traffic, it's easier to go sides and stuff.
yeah. I was down 2 or 3
I was
times,
there
quite a
today.
hole. Quite
I
a
was there
hole.
today, no hole now.
But back to somewhat normal,
What's that?
back to somewhat normal.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
They would have done rain, they had the site all set, rain washed it all up, so they could set them back 2 days.
Yeah.
The blast the same way.
Huh?
They were
You
gonna
mind if I
blast
have
that.
him in, he's got 5 minutes, and he can go home and take a rest, get ready for tomorrow.
Gene, I think Gene probably talked to you about that, truck, 550, or 600 Ford. That they
He mentioned it the other day.
Coming in October,
Yeah.
Hayes Ford. The plow equipment won't be until midwinter or end of winter. Time Viking can put equipment on it. But, we never made a decision what we're gonna do anyways about it. And we talked about it.
Right.
We were
It
gonna-
says a 24,
What's that?
24, Cyril 24, old 24 truck.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. It's getting made right now, or my son.
I can bring our account numbers for the next meeting. What we have.
We talked about it, we never made a real
Right.
commitment.
Right, that's what they knew it when, you know, they said they put a name on it, but if we, that's how we kinda left it. And,
And this is one you guys have been proposing a side dump in it instead of a
right,
back dump.
yeah,
Is that the biggest change? I mean, I know it's got a longer wheelbase because of it.
yeah. Like I said, the extended wheelbase and a side dump,
Yeah.
which they are down on your frame when you're going down the road.
Yeah, little safer project, you
Yeah.
know, up on side roads.
Mhm. We all know that truck is always staying busy.
Yeah.
Chlorine and everything else. Does a lot in the winter.
So the next meeting, do we want to make a final decision on this thing so we can get our
Would
votes
that be
in?
quick enough?
Yeah, I think so.
So we have all the numbers we
We
got.
don't lose
I'll
it.
bring the,
Well, they know we're talking about it, right?
Yeah. No,
You kinda made
make
it-
sure tomorrow.
Get the numbers for sure, the
So we know
trade
exactly.
price.
Yeah, okay.
Find out what they're gonna do if the truck can't be done till, you can't give this one up. And
No,
And the
no.
equipment doesn't go on to that till sometime in the winter, we gotta keep this black truck going.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just there, everybody's on the same page with this.
Get one tomorrow, make sure. The Magnum's wants to put a sleeve in the road in front of the farm.
Oh, across the reeds.
Yeah, yeah. And it's, I kinda told them that they, you know, the procedure, the post that you're gonna close the road, is to close it to do it. And they would like us to do it. I don't know if you guys want to do it or just. They'll,
They'd rather pay the town to have it done than do it themselves. Is that what
well,
you said?
they'll dig it, but just be there and make sure it's compacted all out. Then we'll have to pay the top. You know, like
On the
we
bright
did with
side,
the
now's
rest
the
of
time to do it.
it.
On the bright side, now's the time to do it.
Yeah,
But we couldn't do it before we opened this road, because we're gonna close that.
yeah.
That's where all our traffic.
Yeah.
Right.
So they would, just so we're straight on this, they would pay the town guys to be there to run compactors?
That's what you, ask them what to do.
Right. One way or the other's gotta be compacted.
Oh, yeah. If you want to do it, you can tell them, lend them the compactor.
After the one up by my own farm, I think we better be doing our own.
Okay.
That's just my opinion on
Yeah,
this.
so,
That one up there turned into quite a home.
Yeah, and some of the towns, you have to hire their contractor basically, and their foreman watches it to make sure everything's
Compacted.
done to standard.
It's probably a day
Our
job.
easement
Yeah.
says that the town, the road foreman would inspect pre and post to make sure that it was up to road standards.
But they're liable for a year after, right?
Yep,
How do we do it when the power company goes across?
same thing.
Same thing, anybody.
Same way this day
Yeah.
when I did my driveway, it's,
I'm just saying, I wanna make sure we do it the same.
Yeah.
I don't wanna get in the business of digging culverts.
This is gonna be a sleeve, but,
Right.
I just,
It's basically a culvert, right? Like they did in Orion Road? By the bridge?
they said a sleeve, like, they stopped in the morning, they said a sleeve. Where you could slide out, pump pipe through it.
So let's give them the same application that we would Vermont Electric if they're going under the road or somewheres, right?
Yeah,
you know,
and it
it'd be a
requests,
culvert.
It'll be a culvert, how big is it?
15.
Right, but they wanna work in our right away.
and it requests that the plan be articulated too, so you have it all written down. And anything that they have to show how much it's gonna cost has to be attached or whatever, so.
When's the projected time to pave that road?
He was talking September, I ain't heard nothing from him.
Haven't heard back yet.
Oh, yeah, it's still,
There's a penalty on this one, yeah.
Was it September, was it? Yeah.
it was October.
Yeah, sometime in September it had to be complete.
And we're running up against also the other road, the Pumpkin Village Road grant. So that whole block is, that Pumpkin Village Road grant needs to be complete by October 30th. And if it's
That's
not,
what,
then we have to
stone
get the money back.
That's
yeah.
stone lining it.
They're ditching stone lines and blasting before you get J periods or ditch.
Have you got it scheduled?
Yeah, I've got Norm going to do the excavation and Legitech going to do the blasting. Might be in their late part of the month.
Of August,
No, September.
but it's scheduled to be
Yeah,
done
it's
by,
got-
so we don't go into a case of not having the grant work done.
And I'll get ahold of Legitech and make sure.
I was gonna say, I'd make God darn sure they're aware that we'll lose out if they don't get there in a timely manner.
I already told me that it's 31st.
You do it that way. No.
Yeah, right. You can
Yeah.
ditch and-
We could get the rest of it ready to
And
go.
then work, if you had everything all done, except for that, it's just a short piece to tie in afterwards.
So you could start it in September.
Yes, the plan.
And get it ready except for that one area.
No, I mean, you could dig it, stone it, except for that one section, and then when you blast it, pick up the pieces and chuck them out, and store them like we Oh, you doing the bits.
Yeah.
You just work around that one corner, it's no,
So, the town, they pay the employees, town employees for the day, or find 6 hours.
Let's do it the same way we do for power company or whatever. We have a permit application, right? So let's give them the permit application. They hire, we inspect, plan it with them so we know what day they're being. And you or Jimmy or James, somebody should probably be there, check in every hour or two or whatnot, but I'd prefer not to be in the business of doing that. I've got to put up road signs, and we can help with road signs if we've got them, but I don't want to be different than we do with everybody else.
Yeah. And well, whoever they get to do the work, they'll have to provide their own compactor and do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Same specs as the town, if that's how you wanna go about it.
And have them come and speak happy
Yeah,
about
I
it.
have a copy of it.
Okay.
I just need their names and address, so if they could give me a call, that'd be great. I
Yeah.
will be out of town, out of state, Wednesday through next Tuesday. So
So this tomorrow,
this
This
Wednesday
Wednesday.
through next Tuesday, so
people-
they're gonna
right.
have to either call me tomorrow.
That's one other thing, we wanna make sure it's posted so people are aware that the road will be closed. for-
yeah, we, 3 days before, or 5, I don't know.
Something, yeah.
Something like that.
How long will it take to do? A day or two?
No,
No, should be able to do it in one day.
yeah.
It's good, 'cause I'm sitting there going around.
Just get done going around one way.
Let's go around the other way then. Hey, it's your relatives, don't get after us.
When are you expecting to open North Road? I should update that on
Tomorrow.
That was the plan.
Yeah, don't update it until it's done.
Give me,
A lot safer.
give me, give me a
Miscommunication.
number, I'll tell you exactly when it's open.
the, okay.
Just put your telephone number. Oh, yeah, oops.
looked pretty good today.
That project
Yeah.
is humongous, man, what a work,
We did a good
what a
job.
piece of work that was.
So I've still got to put all the rails back up.
Yeah, yeah, very good. Let's set probably close, they're talking close to a month before blacktop it.
Yeah.
Look good, the sides were coming up with just one black car that kept racing around. I'm gonna put a stop to that guy.
Racing around the road.
The side,
Side road.
The one going down by the sugar house?
yeah,
Oh,
Really?
my God.
he had trouble with the whole project.
Wow,
People use the side road going down by the sugar house?
that's
Thought they
been
would
crazy.
leave it
No,
there.
you can't do that.
Well, I thought there was one.
You know, it'd be different if you, I was there today talking to Jimmy and Randy, and he come up through, he was probably doing 40, there was kids down below swimming, didn't bother him at all.
That's when you set up
That's when you
those
set up a
spike
couple
strips.
big old blocks up there.
No, you just swing the backhoe well.
Yeah.
There was one right beside the road, you could have swung it right out.
Bring the town in.
They're not just there, they're everywhere.
It just makes it hard.
In the next meeting, we talked about the 2017 tool,
Yeah.
kind of running together these two are, have Cindy and Mike come to the meeting, or talk to you guys, or
We gotta start talking about it. If we don't inform ourselves, we don't want to do it.
put those trucks, those trucks are the same way they're out. You could,
I know the
if
guy-
you want the truck by next October, you gotta order it in August.
Guy that brought the dumpster over, they got a Kenworth, and it was 2 years. Well, yeah, it's a triaxle, pull one of those dumpsters. He said it took 2 years to get it.
Yeah, I did a national 3 years ago, yeah.
It took me 6 months to get a Camry.
Is that right?
So I think it'd be good, you
From
could
here, fun.
talk is cheap and they can figure out what to
Get
do.
started on the process.
We can't, if we're gonna want it for next fall, it'd be October time to get it now, if we order in August, or August or September. The Perry Bridge down there.
Did you do break it in half?
No, it's,
Is it
the
deck?
grate, yeah, the deck is getting pretty weak, that's why we put road, bridge closed.
Yeah.
Trying to keep the traffic slowed down, and we got bump sign, dangerous slow. We had put 2 plates on Monday down there, because it broke out.
Is that 'cause big trucks are going across it, or cars, or?
I don't know the amount of traffic, but they hit it, just poke along, you know.
Yeah. I think they do 40 on that, just like the road.
Yeah, the road, they're coming off blacktop between the two
Yeah.
rail tracks over. I don't know, like, checking some grates on top, I don't dare say. And we all see what it's been posted for. Yeah, you know.
It may be time just to close it and wait for them to do what they're gonna do with it, 'cause
Right, because there's alternate routes out.
Both ways.
Yeah, that might be the smartest thing to do with it. We have to keep having that problem.
It was coming
And the state
the
will have some
2025
rates.
summer, so we have a full summer before they start.
If we done this project tomorrow, get down the states, if we
They might have,
know where any is, or where we get.
you know, some of the temporary bridges might have some decks on it that you could use.
right, but if they're gonna replace it for 10 car trips a day, there's no point in us putting much money into that thing.
I bet you'd be surprised, I bet there's more than 10 go across there.
There's a lot of them don't.
Parity Road?
Huh?
Yeah,
On the Parity Road?
But they have an alternative to get out.
right.
That's the biggest point. So
It's free
not-
to have a traffic study done through the Regional Planning Commission. You could just plop up a sign out there and tell you how many, if you want.
We don't even have to go through
Yeah.
that. We know
We don't-
roughly. We just don't need to get technical on this one. Just you shut it down because it's unsafe and there's alternate ways for it to go. Easy alternatives for it to go. 10 minutes out of the way, like when this one down here is already closed.
And the good news is it's gonna be replaced, it will be replaced in 2 years. Not next summer, but the summer.
Parity.
Yeah, the bridge, yeah, it's gonna be replaced.
We'll check with the states, if anything they can,
Yeah.
if we got some deck that would be worth tomorrow for a short time, yeah.
Okay.
That's it for me.
Well, then go home.
Thank you.
Go to bed.
Mo asked me to put a call out to Chris Brunel about getting a hydraulic study for 2 places. One was St. Rock's, the St. Rock's culvert, and one was the Chester Arthur Bridge. Just so that we have that in preparation for if we want to
Bad
have a
idea.
grant.
Not a bad idea.
So, I did put that out and I haven't heard back yet.
But they're busy people too.
Yeah, everybody
They
says
got quite a
that.
full plate, I bet. this
Yeah,
time.
after all the floods.
We've had a lot of water to study.
Yeah. It goes
There is a
downhill.
little bit of water out there.
It goes down. Well, folks might as well come on up, yourself at home.
I'm good.
Just like church, you're gonna stay in the back row?
Yeah.
What was that?
Just like church, you're gonna stay in the back row?
He's already broke the rules once.
Yeah, that's really funny.
No, Marty already.
They did the royal scooch.
Here you go, we'll put David right here.
There's the scooch.
Does everybody already have a copy of
Did you guys sign this?
We did.
Oh, if you're signing those, there's one, the AP from, excuse me, I'm so sorry. AP from last week was missing one name, so there's 2 APs to sign, 2 payrolls to sign because of the 3-week thing that happened. And then, you'll notice that the general fund is about $117,000 worth of expenses this year at this time. Part of that is the 2023 payment, and we have a lot of activity coming through. And wages end. Thank you.
Tom, probably does sign it.
Okay, that's okay.
Well.
I do appreciate them signing. Thank you. I do appreciate the signings, so thank you.
And Tom's gonna sign.
Fine, just push it in the corner. I don't mind at all.
I grew up in Big Town.
see anything without them. Can't see anything move with them.
All right, ready to launch on this? Well, thanks for having us. I know that the draft MOU got presented to you all at your last meeting. We definitely wanted to have, let you have a chance to cast eyes on it and prep for the conversation. We did, in the process of looking at drafting this, looked at multiple MOUs from across the state, and, trying to focus more locally. The only one within this county was Swanton with their municipal library. But most of them were much, much longer than this. We were trying to respect your request that it be nice and short. David said a one-pager and 2 sides on one page. But want to emphasize that this is a draft because we want this to be a collaborative effort. So it's the first stab. And most of the beginning parts, personnel, policy and planning, finances, Kathy and I have talked, a lot. She's been at all our trustee meetings. It's what already happens. It just outlines and puts in black and white the kind of processes that are already happening. Already the employees of the library are technically employees of the town. And so we use your personnel policy and follow those kinds of things. And Kathy is instrumental in helping with like health insurance and benefits and that sort of thing. So you'll notice that a lot of it is like Board of Trustees does this, Board of Trustees does this, Board of Trustees does this. There's not a lot in here that's the Select Board does this, the Select Board does this, the Select Board does this. And we recognize that probably the part that you're going to want to focus on the most is that last section, buildings and grounds, that is the briefest section because it's the one that would be great to have a conversation about. So I'll just start by saying that, the library, we're doing really, really great this year. We did an update recently, but, visits are up. Last year was a banner year already, and this year visits are up 14% from last year, same time. Circulation's up 20% from last year, same time. So this is, the most used space in this town, so it's really great. So this is helpful to then, because we are a municipal library and it's a municipal building, we want to make sure that we're all great and on the same page as far as how this all goes. Do you want to just take it section by section in case you have any questions about certain sections? Do you have any questions right out off the bat?
What do you want to see?
I reviewed, just speaking as one member, I think it's pretty clear, it's very straightforward. I agree with you, the finances, the personnel, policy, finances, I think are standard. I didn't have any questions. Building and ground team to me was like, I'd be interested to see if we could clarify expectations, like for instance, your sidewalk. There was some dialogue about, like us getting involved in a side. So that's literally the only area that I was like, I wonder how this, how we could put a little more clarity to the expectations between the town and the library. That was the only, and Kathy, I think, you've had some conversation, but I know there's some, kind of some history here, and so that was the only, I think it's sufficiently, it's kind of a good springboard for a conversation, but I didn't know.
Right. The first, when we were hashing out the draft was initially pieced together by 2 trustees that aren't currently here, and then that section was much more detailed when we started the conversation, and we, same thing, back and forth, trying to figure out what makes sense. That's the biggest difference between this and the ones from other towns, is almost all of the ones from other towns say the town, meaning the select board, the town staff, does the plowing, will replace the roof, will replace the siding, will do the power washing, will take care of the landscaping, like very detailed of what the town actually manages. Mm-hmm. And so in the conversations about that, it kind of comes down to, obviously we're a municipal library, our money all comes from the taxpayers, it's all town money, the town's doing it all already, we get that. It's who's managing those things, and currently the library director is managing those things. Kathy doesn't have capacity to manage those things necessarily. There are overlappy times though, and we've had some really good times where, so for instance, and it can be more detailed if that's how you choose. For instance, the security system is part of the town because all the buildings are using the same system. Kathy manages getting the insurance quotes, and it goes into our budget. We have a line item for insurance. We pay what she tells us it's going to be, but she manages, you know, doing all the bids and all that sort of thing. So there are, you know, those types of things. A good example is the landscaping. Is that last year we were like, I wonder, you know, you guys have landscaping for your cemeteries and your buildings. Can the library be part of that? Would there be cost savings to be one big thing? And so Kathy and I worked on that. Kathy did some getting bids and sort of thing, and it turned out that it was cheaper to have the library using the landscaper that does the school than to use the landscapers that do your buildings. So it was a money savings to have us go rogue on that particular line. So I think what we ended up kind of discussing is that when it makes sense, when it creates a cost savings, absolutely, let's go in on those kinds of things. But if we can never have a cost savings
And that's kind of what this proposed language
Right.
implies. It says, okay, security system makes sense, landscaping, maybe not so much.
right,
So
and next year the landscaping may make sense again if I can't get the school guy to do mine, you know what I mean? So we kind of felt like it was a little risky to black and white say the town does landscaping in case there's a situation where it makes more sense for it to be in another way. The sidewalk's a great example of, I feel like that was kind of a little bit of a cooperative thing. Peter came and talked to you about, you know, what it was gonna be like. But when it came down to it, the trustees and I managed that project. Therefore, it wasn't on your plate, it wasn't on Kathy's plate, and we found a way with the previous surplus to fund it, and it actually came in under budget and looks great. It's really, really great. I'm really glad it happened when it did with all this crazy summer rain and weather, because it was a real problem before, and it's been great. The water's just sheeting off appropriately now, so that's great. I will say that, I mean, because the town doesn't have a property manager, that means Kathy and I are the property managers of the municipal buildings, adding that onto our plates of our already very busy jobs. So like, you know, if my toilet's wonky, I can't just call the town and say, hey, my toilet's wonky, and then go on with my job. I have to deal with the toilet. And Kathy's got the same situation going on. So we talk a lot about like, who's got capacity to deal with it? It's landed on the library's plate to manage that municipal building all along. But at the same time, we certainly appreciate the town does our plowing. The sidewalk, you guys do that. Do we want that in black and white? Or do we just really appreciate that there's that spirit of cooperation?
Yeah, well, I think your answer kind of helps me, because I was thinking we could nail it down, but I think we also said when we discussed this a number of months ago that it'd be good to get something in writing. And, you know, like, this doesn't have to be, this is a good, you know, good kind of addressing what we were hoping to do is spell out roles. And if, you know, from hearing your explanation, I'm more comfortable with what you, because of the ambiguity and the specifics, and because it's working now, I guess I'm feeling much better about that language there, and that was my only question. And it does address the fact that we said, hey, let's put something down. Let's try to get something on paper and not make it, you know, 15 pages and everything else. I think you've been very responsive to what we were looking for. In my, you know, that's my opinion.
Because when we, like, again, the sidewalk's just such a good example. At first, we were like, oh, well, could Mo and his crew do the sidewalk? You know, so we originally, you know, talked to you, and nope, you know, capacity, you'd rather have it be here. But then when we did get some bids, we were like, okay, come back here and say, hey, you know, like Peter came, and so this is what we're looking at. So like, just open communication, regular, you know, dialogue, is I think where we landed. But again, I'm doing all the talking.
And you also followed the financial policies, which was, if a bid was going to be higher than, what is it, $10,000, then You have to make sure you secure 3 bids, and anyway, there's this whole process. that
Yes,
goes
we do
through.
follow the town's purchasing policy in that regard, for sure. So yeah, all of those bid processes, and we shared the draft financial policy, the draft investment policy, which are waiting for finalities until this is done, because we don't, I mean, and this may still change if we're getting other opinions that start to come in about details, but we didn't know how much to, we're gonna reference this in those policies, and we just wanted to have a good, clear picture of all 3 before moving forward with those. But those are much longer, much more detailed policies about, all of the different finances and how that's going. In addition, remember that we updated the investment policy that as soon as the mortgage is paid off in 2027, that's when things start to change about some of those mechanisms about the money that's currently coming from the endowment to pay the mortgage on the municipal building will then become part of the mix. So that's going to be an interesting transition. But clear and
I guess that was more, I see this as all working hand in hand, not just this being referenced in the financial. Because that building and grounds, I think, is, at least in my mind, kind of open, like, what are we doing? How's, if the town taxpayers sign this and say, yes, we agree to share in this, where is that, the money from the endowment going in the future?
2027, a certain percentage is going to offset the tax.
Right, and that's why I'm saying this is all kind of going to be tied together in my mind, and I need to.
Do you need that in the memorandum of understanding?
That's what I'm saying. I'm behind the ball. I need to do more research. I need to look into some of this more. I mean, this is, like you said, you gotta start somewhere. So we're not all gonna sit around the table and agree the first time. We'll agree it's gonna be put on paper and figured out. So this is how we do it.
And this also doesn't have to be a forever document. A lot of the MOUs say it will be reviewed every 3 years and.
I was just gonna say, that's something you could include in this. It gets reviewed this 2027 date. It's a year before.
Yeah.
We're in 23, 3 more years, bring you to 26.
And you can put as requested in case you want to review it earlier.
Yeah. I think that, I mean, pretty much what we're doing now
Yeah.
is in this.
Yep.
But I could see where you'd like, make sure you address when it hits closer to that 27 date, that we are talking about on both sides, figure out how we're gonna.
It needs to be a living document. We're not gonna have the same select board or the
Right.
same trustees. It's gonna be able to,
Gotta flow with a group that's there. So,
and it can't be one side or the other. It's gotta be, hey, we both need to come together and be able to do this, not just one of us that pulls the plug and say, let's review it.
Right.
Yeah, well, what about we put an additional line just before the signatures, this would be reviewed every 2 years. Maybe you do it.
Or you can do it 3 or 5. It doesn't have to be, none of us want to, none of us or our future.
well, the impression I get is your biggest concern is worried about 27. When
Yeah, I
that
think
was
setting the
only-
stage for that.
So if you do it in 3 years, if you do it every 3, you'll be at the right time period.
Yeah.
In order to say, okay, next year, things are definitely, financially, things are changing.
Yeah.
And I think things change so quick. I think 3 years is not bad.
Wow,
Yeah.
things do change a lot now, the interest rates, everything else that goes on, cost up.
Because that will also have implications of the daily tasks of what we do, how we manage finances and funding through the budget lines and through reconciliations and all of the things. So it makes sense as an internal mechanism to make sure that when you're planning the restructure of how the money flows, that the town and the select board and the trustees are all having that conversation together.
I mean, essentially, the current money that's paying the mortgage will become revenue that offsets the tax ask. So it's not gonna change things super much.
I have to open the brain of computers and find out.
Right.
What was that?
It's not gonna change the budget, it's just gonna come from a different source.
It's gonna change your tax.
Yeah,
So
the overall budget will be the same.
your budget would be what it is.
Right.
It's just the funding for it that will change.
Right. if it's a
Is
positive.
that acceptable if you put something like that in that gets
I
reviewed
think
within
it's
3
every
years?
3 years, but you, or requested by the board of trustees or the select board.
Yeah.
You know, something.
I don't have a problem
something
signing
goes
this
up.
if we put something like that in, that we review it every 3 years, or if both sides requested.
Or either side request.
Yeah.
Because to make this section more detailed and more concrete, like some, like we originally were doing, whatever, just would really need to have a good look, like, does the select board want to have to deal with managing a sidewalk project? Do you want your town administrator to be putting more of her time toward that kind of thing? That's essentially what would the result of that could be, depending on how that was.
Here's what I propose is, I think I think there's consensus around, you prepared a document. I think this side is saying, looks good. And that question that you're asking is probably better left for us to discuss with Kathy, for us to internally have that conversation, give us a little time. And in the interim, we got a document. We got a signed MOU, and we said it's good for 3 years. And if either party wants to discuss it, we can come back and, put a little more meat to that. But for where we're at, I think it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think so.
And then, we're kind of walking a little bit, and then these questions that Dave, like legitimate questions about, the future. We got a template, we got a good document, and we could put some more meat to that.
What do you guys think? What do you think about this?
Like I said, I read it quick,
Yeah, take it.
Linda gave it to me and I left it, I read it in my truck, and then I misplaced it. I forgot to read it tonight.
Put a right pigeonhole in your desk and your check on.
So let me ask a question then. If we need to replace a roof, or how does that work under this agreement? Or if there's a remodeling or upgrading that needs to be done, how do we?
How old is the building right now?
10 years? 12 years. 12 years. And there's no question that, just even in my 2 years here, like, because, it's getting more like, oh, to fix this, and now the lights are going, and now the toilet, and
Square and dare.
Let me take a stab at answering that. The way we got two property, status quo, and this is status quo. We got two property managers. One manages the library, one manages everything else. So the answer is, and I want to verbalize this because the answer is, you'd probably pick up the phone and call Kathy and say, hey, got any ideas about roof vendors? And the answer is.
Right, somebody's gonna come up with the money for this, Brian.
Right,
No, but I'm saying,
Is that what you're
that
suggesting?
this is a library responsibility, so the library would go through the process of getting the vendor in accordance with all the financial, if it's a 10,000,
So I guess that's what I'm trying to ask, is a good question, not to be mean or rude, but historically, that has not been the case, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, either side. But the library took care of the library,
Historically, yeah.
and I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out, because we should have, the town historically has not been in charge of the sidewalk. We work together. It's a small town, that's how we do stuff.
I'm gonna say historically until we realized that the library is a municipal entity. So that does in some way, Sarah
So
said.
that's what I'm saying, is we gotta figure out which, we can't have it both ways. We gotta figure out
I think we can have it both ways, why can't we? Because we can have it both ways
That's the
because
discussion I want.
it isn't.
No, it is, this is good, this
So
is,
we can-
now we talk about it when there's not a $50,000 project on the
Yeah.
table and figure it out.
No, because, do you have a capital reserve fund?
We do.
Yeah, so we would have to look at it both ways. We'd have to figure out who's managing and where's the money coming from. And that's a joint collaboration between the town and the library. And we do have, for the bigger things, we've got a capital reserve fund.
We have about $4,000.
Right, but that we're working on.
Right, but that's, we're all growing, right? We didn't
Yeah.
have a town administrator 3 years ago, and now we're taking taxpayer dollars, and not that it's a bad use, but our town administrator is spending a lot of time helping you with the library, where historically the Board of Trustees kind of took care of that. Correct me if I'm wrong, maybe I'm.
The Board of Trustees took care of managing their own projects.
Right.
They still do.
They still do.
I mean, Kathy does payroll and accounts payable and all that, but
Right, but that's
Which is
what I'm
what
saying
amenities
is
do.
this kind of says, now if there's something wrong, the select board's gonna step in and help pay for it.
No, what it says is that the library trustees and select board share responsibility for managing the maintenance and repair of the building and grounds in consultation and cooperation with each other. So it's a shared
Conversation.
Right,
conversation.
where before it wasn't necessarily shared. Correct me if I'm wrong, somebody,
I don't see it shared as far as finding, well,
In
trustees
their
talking
budget,
about
it's
saying.
their budget.
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's all,
That's what it's always says.
And
Right.
taxpayers
and it's,
pay for that budget, doesn't matter who's,
right, so isn't
No,
it
but
the
I can see like
trustees?
David's point, if we needed a
You need a
$20,000 roof, or you needed $20,000 of siding or windows coming up pretty soon. Where is that, are you guys, prepared for that, or are you gonna come back and?
right,
We're gonna have to
we're
put it
talking
in.
about replacing trucks before they get too old.
Yeah.
Are you guys responsible for building that reserve fund? Are we responsible to step in with taxpayer money to go, oh crap, we gotta do this year and come up with it?
How is the reserve fund currently set up? Is it that every year, a town meeting, that any surplus is dumped over into our reserve fund?
The
Is that
reserve
what
fund
it's-
just came along in this past
Okay.
year.
yeah.
And
First years.
indeed, a surplus of about $4,071 went into it.
Yeah. And my understanding, and the history of the board since I've been on it, since March. No, really, when I was on it before, was that the budget, we plan the budget as close as we possibly can, because sitting here, before you guys at least, 4, 5, 6 years ago, it was, why are we budgeting for $100,000 when we're only spending $50,000? We shouldn't be making that ask. So our budget is always as close as, it can. We're not building reserve into the budget. Now, if there is a surplus, that gets dumped over into the reserve.
We actually have been talking about though, and Sue, like as we were building the budget last year, we were talking about, yes, designating, putting into the budget some to go into the reserve to start to build that, so we don't come back to you for a roof. So when it comes time for the roof, there's money in there for the roof, right? That's what we
Yeah,
do.
but ultimately, for the roof scenario, just let's be clear. The roof scenario, the library is gonna go to the taxpayers of Fairfield, and they're gonna say, we need a new roof. And that's the bottom line. You got an asset, you gotta manage the asset, and this does not say that the select board are gonna raise the money to fix the roof. This says, Sarah is gonna call Kathy, like you went through those two scenarios, and there's gonna be a conversation. This is kind of language that says there's conversation and dialogue. This does not require the select board to put a roof on the library. This says, we heard two clear examples. So, if this was strongly written language that says, but it isn't. And that's why I say it's a good first step. And as we get closer to 2027, the conversation might change, and they might get a little clearer.
Some of the players are gonna change.
Sure, and I think this is an important aspect, but it's vague, and I don't think that's bad. All these other things are clear, and I think that's good. And so,
And I think we're talking about expenses right now. There might be an expense over here and there might be an expense over there. And there's also the conversation that you want to have around the income. Where's the income? Is it the taxpayers? This is the grants. You're writing more grants. There's, there's always that conversation about the income. Is it the interest from your whatever, however it looks. And that, I think, the differentiated, budget, when it comes to income, would be a conversation. How is that looking now, and how is that evolving into the future? But that does not include, these expenses are gonna come up anyway, and this is how we partner and how we meet those demands.
No, but I mean, it's a topic that
It is.
we try to run a tight budget, but we're not doing surpluses. I mean, we're planning 10 years ahead or 5 years ahead on our trucks and everything and try to keep, we don't have a $50,000 surplus at the end of every year. Ours is pretty cut and dry.
Oh, we don't, no, ours isn't. That
We
was-
try to save
That wasn't.
taxpayers as much money as we can. We're scroogily, we're too scroogily, I guess, if you talk to some, but
So let's go away from the financial, let's go to the management, right? Because we've grown, the library's getting bigger, more circulation, the town's hired a town administrator. How much of that asset management is the board of trustees responsible for? And how much is the town, I mean, how much time is Kathy gonna be spending managing that? I mean, I guess even currently in my mindset, I'm getting the feeling that our town administrator is spending more time than I was aware of working.
How much time do you spend at present?
Well, I do the payroll and any of the accounts payable, so that's about, your accounts payable is maybe 2 hours a week, payrolls.
Right, but that's what I'm saying,
So
the
like
management of
3
other,
or 4 hours a week overall.
right, but is there a lot of other work where we're working
Just a
back and forth?
conversation here and there. Like I went over the other day, we were troubleshooting the alarm system because that's part of, we share that project, that we share that and we were like to push the button, call people, we
Okay, we've
figure
been
it
through
out.
that, Sarah
But
doesn't
like-
answer our calls when we show up. with the
Yeah,
fire
so
truck.
I mean, just random things once in a while, like, like Sarah's called me and said, do you think we could have the plow, at some point, it didn't get done and, so not really anything when it comes to, I don't manage projects, Sarah's been managing projects. When there was synergy between the lawn, the landscaping, I was already putting out bids for our landscaping, so it was just tag on.
But that's
Yeah,
the
so-
sort of thing I'm looking at, are
So
we
it's really like synergy, it's
Right.
not more, it's just part of what I'm already doing.
Right, but I guess that's what I'm just looking to see. I mean, if you take an employee and you're losing another 5 hours a week, that's massive. When we've got grants and other things.
Do you have any idea how much time Amanda was spending per week? Because she used to do the reports. And she wasn't doing account payables maybe. I mean, for the payroll.
Yeah, it's mostly just accounts payable.
She did it? Yeah, so is your.
And then there's taxes,
Right.
No, and I know all that stuff. I didn't know how much on top of that.
Yeah, this goes back to, this has been a part of my job since I started. I was trained to be present for the library in specific ways, and it's written into the daily tasks that I was expected to do according to Jonathan. So I haven't changed anything like that. And if we want to talk about hours, I've been to work like a job. This is sort of a conversation that we could have where we can look at what are my hours. what am I
I'm
doing?
just asking the question, just,
Well, let's
Hasn't increased, huh?
I think the
Hasn't
answer
changed.
is right here in this number
As
five.
far as
This
my
last sentence, it's pretty much summarizes
Yep.
Kathy's involvement right there.
okay.
Right, because I don't call Kathy when the toilet's not working. You know what I mean? Like.
No, and I'm just trying to get that on the table, like,
Right.
where are we,
Right.
where is everything?
Right. And I think that, this board and myself in particular I'm a very forward-thinking person in that when will the carpets need to be replaced? When will the interior need to be repainted or the exterior? When will the roof need to, the windows, and obviously nobody's got crystal balls to, know exactly
So
when
I'm just trying to make sure we're on
but
the
it's
same
something that we can, just like you with your trucks, is something that we can be always keeping in mind and planning for, setting time horizons for when certain things are gonna need to be done.
So, I'm on this, do you mind telling?
no,
I'm just trying to get this thing moving along here. So do you guys like the way this is written? Are you willing to sign something or not, or you want to look at it longer?
I'm only, as long as you added thing at the end of 3 years.
We'll work on it.
So you can make a motion to adopt it with those revisions, and then we can just sign it in the next
Set
meeting.
it in for the next meeting? and we'll-
Yeah. Why don't we just, one more meeting, and we'll get it here, we can sign it and be done.
Sure.
Will that work for you folks too?
Yeah.
Perfect. So thank you for coming and thank you for getting this thing together.
Okay.
And we're good. And those, you specifically, how do you want to say it?
I think they can, they'll understand.
You know, you understand what we're talking about, we just wanted to be.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
the
your
option.
figures are always requested by either side.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll,
Sure.
we'll revise it.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So David, thank you.
Congratulations on your, what do you got, what's the term for?
Circulation is only-
Circulation.
It's only up because I take the same book out every summer and Sam to read it, and I still haven't even opened the cover.
Well, and there's something on the M&Ms coming out.
Did he really?
Yeah, I
Good for him.
did. Yeah.
That's like in my household.
There's some on the M&Ms. By the way.
Can we make a motion to accept the minutes? Good.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, good night.
Is there any amendments or changes anybody wants to put into this? If you don't, we'll vote on it, all in favor?
All right.
Okay, that's done. Do you want to do the tax rate first, or you want to do your budget status first?
I can say that the budget status, I did not have a printer, so the budget, the actual printed version is not here. I can
Next
tell you
week,
The only thing.
next
that-
time.
Yeah, next time.
Next time, we're gonna move this along. Tax rate.
All right, so, I think that Linda left this for you guys. This is the education tax notice.
How many of you want to keep passing through?
This is
You got one?
the calculation behind the
You
calculation.
need more that way, you got it.
So this is how the tax rate is calculated. So the municipal tax rate is calculated by looking at the municipal rate plus the local agreement tax rate and utilizing the education tax rates to calculate what we need to do in order to raise the entire budget. So this year, the total taxes to be raised in the budget was $1.4 million. The municipal grand list was $3,104,000. So that means that the municipal tax rate pre-local agreement is 0.459. And then the local agreement tax rate calculation is grandfathered in already approved local agreements for taxes that are different than the grand list taxes. And and then that's multiplied by the ed rates, the homestead education and the non-education tax rates. So the local agreement amount to be raised is $6,938, which means that the local agreement tax rate is 0.0022. Altogether, the local agreement rate and the municipal tax rate combined is 0.4613. And that will raise our total budget.
So the tax rate for the town is roughly 46 cents. Is that what? Keep it simple, just keep it simple. And the school rate is
This,
10.64?
so it depends, yeah, it's 106.4, it's 106.04, 1.0604, or 1.0825, depending on if it's what kind of.
Which type of person it is.
Right, so really you're talking tax rate roughly around $1.53 together.
So total municipal tax rate considers the local agreement and the municipal budget.
Right. But together you put the roughly, you're coming up at about
0.46.
53 to about 56, something like that.
We have a 0.355 decrease this year because of the equalization. So my understanding is that the municipal tax rate is 0.4613.
Right, that's to raise our taxes to cover.
To raise the,
Yeah,
yeah, to
our
raise our
budget.
taxes.
But
But
the
last year-
educational,
That's right,
Well,
right.
what last year, what was our two rates together? There's a lot of people looking at this reappraisal, and they're gonna be looking at,
Yeah.
okay, so we did this, how much did we, I mean, like, I know we would've been 71 cents higher on the school tax rate
Yeah.
if we hadn't done the appraisal.
So, the document that Linda gave to you, this is notice of education tax rates. This says fiscal year '24. She did that calculation between, so the FY '24 is on the top and then FY '23 is stapled to it. And she shows the difference between the two. So this year it's down it's down 57 cents for homestead, and it's down 65 cents for non-homestead for the education tax rates.
Right. If you hadn't done the appraisal, it would have gone higher,
Right.
it would've been 71 cents. Plus, the way I understood it, maybe I'm mistaken, we wouldn't have got the amount of money we got previously.
The handwritten number, 0.5794, that was the reduction,
Where is that on?
right on the,
Yeah, if you go from 23 to 24,
Yeah.
you
yeah.
go from $1.60 to $1.06, and that's
Last year.
it's 57 cents less
Yeah.
because of the CLA change and the change in the grand list, I guess, correct?
That's correct.
yeah.
Yeah.
That seems like quite a swing based on CLA.
Well, the values of the properties,
My house went from 199 to 389.
So what was last year's total number,
Which
do you know?
is
I don't
stupid.
have the municipal grand list
I
from
could
last
sell
year.
it for that in my dreams.
Same to me.
I thought that was about the same.
It's a piece of junk.
And what happens
Don't
is
like shit.
the equalization process means we're still raising the same amount of money for the schools and the municipal budget, but now it's equalized for, you know,
You're at 102 point something percent face value, 102.56.
I'm a little confused why on this document, 2024, it says CLA 125%. Because that would imply to me, you would expect it would be like 100%.
It's
But
over.
that would imply that the appraisals are 27% higher.
Yeah, that's what it is. They overraise, but they say they're gonna come down to the match.
When they get adjustments into it, that's what their thing is. There's a house, there's one for sale up in Romar. And they just reappraised it, and it's being, they're asking 119,000 more than what's just appraised that under this new appraisal.
Right.
Whether they get it or not, I think it's a different story, but could be.
So they
What
briefed
they're
that
saying is that as houses sell, that number's gonna come down.
going forward.
Yeah. By next year, they figure because they kind of self-adjust after.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see the.
Yeah, it would be great to have an example that says, here's a house that's $500,000, 2023, and here's a house, $500,000, well, $750,000 house,
Right.
under
Oh,
this
yeah.
new tax rate. I guess we could do that, but, you know,
It looks
What,
like
to
a
see how much
pain-
that tax
pain.
is in estimate?
well, this is, you know, like, the average, it'd be nice to be able to say, the average taxpayer is gonna see, because that's what we're doing tonight, we're gonna set a tax rate. It would be,
With the new appraisals.
could I ask that, I mean, I don't think we're gonna do this seat of the
I would
pants.
I have to check in with experts on this one, because I know that there are
I
also
understand.
calculations at the state level regarding how much money, what your income is, to calculate what percentage of your income is going toward schools. So I don't know
Well,
exactly how.
let's just make it real simple, we're not talking about income sensitized.
Yeah, okay.
Let's talk about just,
The rate.
yeah,
The
right,
actual rate we're gonna pay. No income sensitivity and nothing.
right.
Just what you're gonna
You'd think
take.
it'd be reduced by that 28% back to the 100.
Well, what I've maintained to people that have asked me,
1.543.
Yeah, that's what your tax rate's gonna be, as I said.
yeah, what I've said to people that have asked, like tonight, we're gonna set the tax rate, but our budget went up approximately 8% last year.
Yeah.
So, all things being equal, if you look at the grand list, and, you know, that if you weren't out of whack with the appraisal, your taxes are gonna go up 8%, and then on the municipal side.
Right.
And it would be, it'd be worth our while to, like, for next meeting,
To have some numbers.
have some numbers.
Yeah, like on $1 million, it's like, one guy was going by his brother-in-law's house, brother's out looking around. Guys, got a problem with this place or what? You know, need help? No, I'm just out looking at my $1 million dream house.
I can do that. I also want to suggest that the select board make a motion to adopt the municipal tax rate, because it's what will, based on all of the calculations, raise the amount of money that we need to cover our budget this year.
I think you have to adopt them both. I mean, it's black and white, there's nothing you can change. You gotta have.
Yeah, the municipal
You
tax.
gotta raise the money, so you,
Right.
that's the rate, the rate's 1.543, I don't know if you wanna call it 1.55 or just,
The municipal tax rate is 0.4613.
yeah, but you gotta add the,
State land.
that
That's what it's gonna
education
come
one.
to. So you make a motion to accept the town, you can make a motion to accept the town tax rate. And then you can include the number for the school tax rate, which the state has. You may want to do your tax rate for your town, do your municipal tax rate. Someone make a motion for that.
Yeah.
And then we can get that one done, and then the other one, make sure it's mentioned in there, but we don't, I mean, we have to include it in our tax rate. We don't have much
Right, we have to-
input into it.
Right.
Zero.
Zero,
Yeah.
the schools do.
So will somebody make a motion to set the town municipal tax rate?
I will.
And let's make sure we use the correct number.
0.461.
0.4613 as printed, and then
For the municipal tax rate.
for the municipal tax rate, and then the add-on state educational tax of 1.0825.
For non-homestead.
Zero six. Oh,
Zero
Oh,
six.
That's
For-
not, that's not.
For non-homestead and
Yeah.
Homestead, 1.0604.
for homestead tax.
I said when the tax bills go out, I wondered if it wouldn't be a bad idea just to do a comparison of what your tax bill is with your reappraisal, what you'll get. But if you had not done the reappraisal, what's your school tax, how much higher?
Right, we would have been penalized.
What we would have been penalized, so people are aware.
Huh?
It shouldn't really be different.
I'll second that motion.
Second it, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So it's your tax rate. But it would be interesting to send it so people could truly do a comparison. That your appraisal did go up, but with the other fluctuations in it. So they kind of know, like when you keep voting on budgets, you spend it, you gotta come up
That's
with a number.
10,000.
I make a motion, we approve the warrants.
Okay. Have you looked those through, Dave?
Yeah, the hazard mitigation stuff is for the box culvert on North Road that wasn't included in the bid.
Hazard mitigation permit is the water permit through the state that is required with
No.
our municipal roads permit.
Right, there's a section in here out of account called hazard mitigation, and the invoices say box.
Oh, that's the North Road. I called it hazard.
Right,
We
just
haven't used
put it
that.
into a,
We haven't used that
Yeah.
account for more than 4 years, so that means that we can put another name on it. So I slash,
right, it's just a whole
slash
put it.
structures. It's a structures grant.
It's a structures grant.
And versus a hazard mitigation grant. So I changed the title so that it has,
Yes.
because otherwise it's just gonna be empty, it's not being
I'm just
used.
curious why we're paying for the stone. Was that not in the contract, or how did that work?
That's a good question.
You're right, I mean, it was a big job, right?
Right.
My understanding, and I have not had a chance to talk to Mo about any of this, and I've been wondering that same question.
Because we brought stone out of Tommy's from gravel, they brought stone out of Swanton.
I wonder if it has to do with saving, because we had gone into this conversation saying that we'd like to try to save money by having the town do things. And I'm wondering if the delivery of
Question's
stone.
being asked, Tom, is materials coming under this, under that bid for that project? Were they the town's responsibility in that
I'd
bid
have to
project?
we should review the bid documents before we make any payments.
I would think, make sure, absolutely certain.
Just to double check.
You know what I'm saying?
We don't.
What's that again?
You know, down on that project, they brought gravel out of yours, they brought gravel out of Swanton. But in the bid project, was that part of Corey's bid, the gravel, or was the town supplying the materials for the project?
I don't know. But I also, isn't there a stipulation where, you know, you gotta
Sure.
get so
in
much
kind.
to get
In
time,
kind.
in kind, to get money, or saves you money if you're doing in kind?
Well, why don't we formally, double check that before we,
I would say,
Just a quick question to
So-
Tyler.
I would say, approve the warrants, barring research into the, was it 76 account expenses.
Stone,
The expenses related to North.
I amend my motion. I'll just add that clarity for a question. Thank you, Dave.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be just a
Clear as mud, Melissa, you got that?
quick question
Who
to
seconded
Tyler.
it?
You know,
I'll second.
tell you quickly.
Yeah, thank you.
So you
I make a motion, we go into executive session to discuss a real estate matter.
Followed by a personnel matter.
will someone second that?
Second.
We need to go to an executive session.